Welcome back, everybody, and today I'm going to be telling you all about my wish list for 7.33. I want to start out with the fact that there's been a stagnant lane meta. And what I mean by stagnant lanes is how long has it been since you saw a dual lane mid that wasn't two people grief each other? And how long has it been since you saw like tri-lanes in professional matches? And for me to have some degree of variance in lane setup would make the early game of Dota a lot more exciting. And I think this is largely due to the way the XP formula, perhaps how strong or weak denies are. So I would say I first off want there to be a change in the orientation of lanes, always being 2-on-2. And I believe that will be done either by changing denies again, or something that I thought would be kind of interesting would be that perhaps if you were sharing XP with your teammates, that it wouldn't be just like 100% of the XP is split by 2, 3, 4 people. What if with 2 people they got 55 or 60% of the XP? With 3 people they got 40%. With 4 they got 30%, etc. And that's what I'd hope they do. The goal being that the 2-1-2 meta every single game ends with 7.32D. Next up, my next big change is the idea of holding areas and this high ground meta. I feel like with this meta for so long now, high ground awards have been like the king of mid to late game, and late game strategies that are predicated around being better at holding areas than they are at invading areas is because of how powerful these high ground wards are and just how treacherous it is to venture off into the abyss that is a high ground ramp. The fact that like illusion carries and long-range DPS carries, especially now with the Lina Drow sniper meta, these heroes have been really defining of what's popular, and I think they've even made it so that the counter to them is now popular, which is single-target burst. We're seeing a lot more tinies, tusks, that the whole idea of these heroes is they kill the ranged squishy DPS heroes instantly. And this entire meta starts with the fact that the high grounds are so hard to deal with, and that's the part I would like them to address. One more thing that could potentially address this is mobility on the map through TPs. I think that TPs, they've been the same amount of gold and cooldown for a very long time now. So if TPs were to be lower cooldown, lower cost, no mana cost, perhaps it would be more enticing to make defensive plays around areas that the opponent controls on your side of the map, or perhaps making invasion plays that at the end of the day, if you are forced to TP out, then it's not as big of a detriment as it is right now. So many of professional teams' plays, even at the Immortal bracket and pubs, are predicated around forcing TP reactions because you control an area, force the opponent to come there, back off, control a new area, and now they're stuck there. And so if we were to change the TP formula a little bit, that might help us get a different meta. Next up is one we've all been hoping for, I think, for a really long time. And I'm still they're behind my back, they're back here, but my fingers, they're crossed. The Rosh location changes, or a second Rosh type objective is put on the map. Overall, a new way to play the map. Right now, the top half of the map has Rosh. Rosh is the only relevant objective past like 30 minutes. Everything else is like a result of who gets Rosh, who goes high ground, who gets towers, who controls what. And so even though the team fights in the late game I think are still very exciting, exactly where they take place and why has been the same for 2+ years. So perhaps a removal / rework of the outposts as well. I think the outpost control around Rosh matters a lot. And overall, I just think outposts, once again, as I said in the last patch wishlist, is just boring. Like, nobody's like, yeah, let's take their outpost. Let's invade their outpost. It's like, no, let's take their outpost so we can get Rosh. So we have somewhere to TP to if we buy back to get Rosh. And as much as I love the fact that Rosh is a staple objective in Dota, and I believe it should always be an important objective, have it be the be-all, end-all of every decision past 25-30 minutes is not really fun anymore, I guess, or interesting anymore. And then the other idea I had was perhaps making neutral items more of like an objective / loot on the map. Theoretically, that both teams didn't get the same amount of neutral items. What if you got like the same neutral item, but it had increased stats if you got it from from an opponent camp. You know, you invaded the opponent's side of the map. What if there were jungle camps equally accessible to both teams in the middle of the map that they would fight over that would drop their own neutral items or some sort of buff? So that's something that, you know, League of Legends has, and even if we don't want to say the name of the game that shall never be named, what if? You know, what if there were other miniature things to play for, perhaps that were not bounty runes and were more creep-centric, the way I think Dota, a lot of people like to play Dota, is killing creeps, and whether that can be for supports roaming on it or even carries going and farming it relatively early, something that shakes up the dynamic of stationary farming patterns on the map and making it so people have something else to go for other than what it really feels like bounty runes and power runes. I feel like power runes shift us towards the middle of the map, and then we go back to stationary farming, back to the middle of the map for power runes, stationary farming. And I just want to get rid of that, you know? It's the 9 to 5 grind. It's the daily grind of the same game plan, albeit still fun, but let's mix it up. And last but not least, if all these other things were to not happen, I would ask for Muerta to be a carry. Now, I know that's biased, guys. I know biased Jay, but I have a few hopes. First off, that she's like a ranged DPS right-click carry. She can be melee too, but she looks like a spellcasting hero, so that'd be really cool if she was like a spellcasting right-click carry, somehow scaling with magic damage, or like her spell amp or something, like some form of what you would imagine a intelligence right-clicker being, but that she doesn't have a stun and a mobility spell. Now, BSJ, that's what literally every hero has had that's come out in the last like 3 years. Generally, these spells make them fun and interesting, but how crazy would it be if this hero had an obvious role, at least to start, right? Like they were meant to be a mid, meant to be a carry. Because my issue with all the heroes that have come out, even though I do like the role fluidity of Dota, where heroes get played as support or core and kind of go from patch to patch, just what if the lack of combination of a stun plus mobility spell allowed Muerta to not be played as any role in the game? You know, we see Primal Beast, we see Marcy, and we just see conceptually broken heroes that, unless their numbers are nerfed out of control, then they can just be played 1 through 5. And that is what I would hope for. Above all else, if it's not a carry, that it's very clearly something else. At least an optimal role for the hero based on its kit, and if people manage to figure out another way to play it, that's fine too. But that's my wish list for 7.33. I'd love to see in the comments exactly what you guys hope for, things you agree with me on, things that I omitted from this video, and also if you think I'm crazy for wanting some of these things. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.